It's Linda MacPhee's workshop. Here's Linda.
You hear that music and you know it's my favorite time of the day, and I hope it's your favorite time of the day, because we're going to have the next half hour just playing with fabric, playing with patterns, playing with fashion, a little bit of a lot of things. To join me with my playing is Ava, and I'm glad to have you here, Ava.
Glad to be here, Linda.
Ava teaches classes in the workshop, and we've running classes all the time because so often people say, oh, I don't know how to do that, and classes are great, aren't they?
They are, and we have drop-in classes too, so come on out and see us.
Yes, or the retreat.
Yes.
You teach our retreat,
yes.
And that's a great way to...
You could make this at our retreat.
Yes, in fact, we haven't even shown the viewers what we're going to make, but you could make an entire coat lined at the retreat, but you could do it.
Wear at home.
Classes are good, and I think that people should not feel guilty about taking a class, because sharing and learning and having instructors that guide you along.
We also learn from our
Sure you do. That's why you keep doing this.
That's right.
And we're all addicted to this whole thing.
Yes, we are.
But let's have a look at the parkas, because that's what we're going to actually do today. It's something that I started probably 30 years ago, and I love a parka. So here we go. And this is a wool parka, and I know those of you in Florida are going to say, no, 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 but you might come and visit somebody in a colder clime. So here is lined wool parka with our fur, faux fur or real fur, whichever. And here it is. It's just a 3/4 length.
And these designs here, Linda, are just done by a single
Top
needle,
stitching, aren't they?
top
Yeah,
stitching.
Yeah, you can't really
nothing
see them
fancy.
Yeah, this is all serged around. Yeah. You don't have to have wonky pockets. This is wonky pockets. You could have straight pockets if you want, but you can do wonkies. You could roll this back up. I mean, it's just, it looks great, and of course it's nice and warm.
Nice color.
Okay, so thank you. Let's have another one. Because if it's not quite so cold, you might want something a little bit lighter. So that's what we did next. And here is our little bit lighter. And basically it's the same pattern, but you could put a collar instead of a hood. So have a collar, drop sleeve, elastic, not wonky pockets, zipper, online.
And this one also has a detachable hood, Linda. You can flip it on at the back.
Yes, you could. Yeah, yeah. So that's another possibility. But now, for a really Florida, Hawaii kind of thing.
One.
Thank you. Let's have a look at this one. So this one is completely different.
This is mine. I love this.
But it's cold, so you want it, depending on when it's cold. Everybody thinks Canada's cold, and we have nice weather sometimes. So here is sheer. So is there any reason you couldn't make your parka sheer?
That's so pretty.
And instead of putting a collar or a hood, we've just put a big ruffle, and of course this we can do with our ruffler.
That's right.
So there it is. Yes, yes, very nice.
That's beautiful.
Okay, we're going to do this.
Okay.
So first of all, if we're going to do it in wool, you decide what weight of wool, and there's lots of different weights of wool, so you just sort of choose which weight. We're using the wool duffel, which is quite a heavy weight of wool here. So that's your first thing. Then I guess we'll start to serge.
We will. And you should serge around all the edges that you're going to see.
Actually, this might be a good little sample, because that way you don't have to turn an edge. It's a finished edge. So we've set up a serger with our decorative thread on the loopers, and then the regular thread on the needle, and it's 3-thread. Adjust your tension a little bit. That's
on your loopers,
yes, just to see that you get it right.
And play with it a little bit,
yes,
like we've done here.
Yeah.
Just play with it.
So just hang on. Yeah, let me have a look at this, because I think here we got it right. Here we were fussing around, and that loop, that heavy part should be right there. So that is perfect.
Play.
And again, it could be contrasting, or it could be, matching, whichever you decide. So that's how we've solved the edges of this one, is completely serged around it first, and then everything will go into the seams.
That's right. And if it's not going into the seams, then you can use a darning needle and push this into your seam down
or
here.
Thread it through the big needle.
Thread it through.
And just push it in there.
Or knot it, or use freight check.
Sure. Okay, so to put this together, I mean, it's not that difficult. There's a front and a back and a sleeve and a hood. So, I mean, how many ways are there to mess that up? So we've done a shoulder seam. Your choice is on seam finish. You could just sew a seam and press it. And if I were to press it, I would put a little piece of paper underneath that so that I don't get a ridge on that. So press it like that. Or press it and top stitch it, which is fine too. One on each side like that. Or you could take the other alternative, is sew your seam, cut one down to half, push this over, and top stitch it. And then you get sort of a flat feldy kind of looking.
It gives it a professional look.
Yes, it does, and it keeps it flat, so that's good. So we're going to sew the shoulder. We're going to put the sleeve in, and again, with wool, you don't even have to put a gathering thread, do you? It just center it up in the center it down here, and then go up and under. So you're going to start at the bottom, go up and under, and we've basically got that part. We're going to put the hood in. So actually this hood is kind of an interesting hood, because if you look at it, it looks kind of weird. but it actually is a dart, and that is the dart that goes and forms the hood. It's a very beautiful fitting hood, and when that goes down, it goes flat, and I think that's important for any hood because it doesn't make a big... Sometimes people don't like hoods because it's a big blump in the back.
Right. And just remember to clip
that corner,
nice and
flip
close.
it over, top stitch
Top
it,
stitch.
so you've got a nice hood, and when that's down, it's flat and it's out of sight. So we've got the hood on this one.
Done that.
So we're just steaming right along. So we've got the hood on, we've got the sleeves on. We actually sewed a little ways up the sleeve, and maybe we should even go back to this one. If you notice this, we sewed up here because we want to roll that back. And that's such a nice
We
way.
want it to look nice.
And
Right.
it becomes mitts. If it's really cold, you can flip that down or up, whichever way. So shall we line it?
We could.
Okay, because you wouldn't have
Pretty
to line
simple,
it.
no?
At this stage, you could just put the zipper, tuck it in behind there, and top stitch it.
And your parka's done.
Yes, I've done a class called Parka in a Day,
Okay,
and people
that's
think,
true.
"Oh, how can I do that? This is
You
how
can do it.
Yep.
So if we want to do the lining, we do exactly the same thing all over again. We're just making another.
Cut the pieces.
Jacket.
We've used acacia satin. It's a flannel-backed satin, so it's a beautiful, nice weight. It's nice and heavy, so it just gives it a little bit of extra body, extra warmth. So the trickiest part about this, I think, is you could put the zipper into here and then hand stitch your lining, but we don't want to do that.
we don't want to do that.
So I like to then just lay my lining in, and this is a bit of an IQ test. I like to sort of say, okay, this is where my lining needs to be, and this needs to be this way up, and that will fit in there. And I want to have my zipper in between. So if I put my zipper onto the lining like this, and flip that out, and stitch that, now that's going to be exactly where I want it. And I can stitch from this side, and I can stitch right in that ditch, run my edge of my presser foot along there, stitch in that ditch.
It'll be nice and straight.
And I will have a nice straight line up there. So basically, I'm going to stitch on this side, line up my neck seam, and line this up down there. And the lining is going to be loose at the bottom. So we'll hem that at the end when it's finished. And then once you get up to that point, you'll just turn this under and continue around that edge.
Simple. And you still see your decorative stitching.
Yes, and you can put fur on or not fur on. So really, that will hook this. I would also do a little bit of hand stitching in the shoulder and in the underarm, just to hold it all together.
Mm-hmm.
But really, that's all that the lining
Parka in
has
a
to
day
be. So
is
let's
true.
have a look at the finished one. I think it's right here. We'll take that one out of here. So here we are finished. This is warm even looking at this, isn't it? It is warm. So again, this one has kind of wonky pockets, but this is just the individual,
It's fun. Yeah,
whatever.
it's a fun part.
You'll see a little bit of top stitching right through this because that's what sculpts it if you want. And then the fur. How are you going to put in the fur or the faux fur, whichever one you want?
A couple of ways to do it.
But I think the easiest is just to pin it. So there it is. We've just put the fur on the inside, put some safety pins on, flip it out. And
Now, if you don't want to do that, you could also just zigzag.
You could zigzag.
Big
or whip stitch.
zigzags
Yeah.
or whip stitch.
But then you'd have to take it off. So pins are
So easy.
detachable and so easy. So there is your parka done. So we have another surprise. Oh, guess what? Let's bring out our model and show. Here we go.
Ooh,
So here is the long one. So if you want a long one, there's no reason that you can't just lengthen your pattern and make it as long as you want. This one, again, is serged around the outside edge. You can have detachable cuffs. So you've got them on Velcro. So you've got your faux fur or your
great
fur on
idea.
Velcro. So that gives a different look. And a collar. So if you turn around, there you go. Maybe you could go and get the other ones. They're just on the chair because every time I say, hey, you could have one, you could have a whole bunch more. So let's look at this one, because if it's going out for something really glitzy, you could have some beaded fringe. So once we started playing this game, there was no end, because I said, you could have one of these. Oh, you've got to get this lined up. You could have one of these for every occasion.
That's very nice.
Your neighbors
Little
get quite
dressier,
annoyed
yes.
because they think you've got a new coat.
New coat.
And you've just got a whole new shell or a new vest or a new collar. The latest one that we just made was this. And this was done on bridal tulle, and it's just very light, and we just applicate on it, and put fringe around it. So we sort of thought, wouldn't this
very
be
pretty?
Kind of fun?
That is fun.
So there it is, a totally different look, sort of the shawl, kind of the collar.
You can wear
kind
this
of
on its own.
Yes, you could wear this with some other things too. So there we go. And we turn around and we'll see.
It looks great.
So the possibilities with this,
Endless.
as you continue, I mean, you can make this coat can go forever and ever. And of course, remember, you can make it sheer. So you can have the sheer one. Thank you, Leona. All right, well, I hope we've got you excited about coats and making them sheer or wool or whatever you want. And then, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll see you again for sure. And don't go away because we'll be right back. Well, now that you've made that parka, you might be wondering about interfacing, and that is a specialty, or one of the specialties of my next guest, Ron Collins. It's great to have you here, Ron.
Well, thank you, Linda. You changed again. You look great.
I'm woman. I have to change. I have to change all the time.
I agree. I'm going to agree with you.
Okay. But you run around, speaking of classes, that's what you do a lot of your time.
That's right.
You run all over this continent teaching classes, and I know by the viewers, the emails and things that we've had, people are asking about interfacing. And I would just say, using that heavy wool that I just used, there's really no need for interfacing. It's got great body, hasn't it?
You're right there, Linda.
And how about that sheer parka?
Oh, you don't need it there.
No,
and if you do, you use self fabric.
Yes, that's true. If you want an extra thickness.
Just adds enough body to it.
Like in that collar we could have used, although we didn't, because we ruffled it.
Yeah.
But tell me the scoop on interfacings.
Interfacings. Well, if you have an interfacing, you don't know where you got it from or the fiber content, I would pre-shrink it. And the reason you pre-shrink it is to prevent that bubbling.
Yes, and I think you're saying interfacing sits around for a long time and we kind of forget about it.
You forget where you've bought it or how long it's been there.
Yeah.
Take your interfacing, put it in a sink full of hot tap water for 10 to 15 minutes. Let the water cool. Drain the water off. Don't wring the water out of the interfacing. You'll distort it.
Okay. Good.
Just squeeze the water out of the interfacing. Lay it flat to dry. Don't put it in the dryer, especially fusibles. You get a big ball of glue. I'm self-taught here. And then you've pre-shrunk it, so you're not going to get that bubbling of interfacing.
Yes,
A few good points on fusing. If you have an ironing board cover with that Teflon finish, you see them in hotel rooms all the time. Don't use that, because what happens is the steam gets trapped between your iron and your ironing board cover, and you don't get a proper fuse. Because that ironing board cover with the Teflon finish is non-porous and doesn't allow the steam to go through.
Good point.
And 8 to 10 seconds with pressure. If you have to fuse a large piece of fabric, I lower my ironing board to give more oomph behind it.
And I guess we should have said, for those and the cameramen and the people that don't know about interfacing just gives a little bit more oomph to whatever you're doing, because your fabric doesn't have it. So, so let's go through some of the kinds.
Well, there's two categories, fusible and non-fusible. Then we have wefts and knits and wovens and non-wovens. Here's some examples of some that I've used. This is a sew-in, a non-woven sew-in. What I use this one for is to actually trace my patterns.
So this is your pattern paper now.
So this is my pattern. That stuff is cheap. I buy it all the time.
And it can be used for that. So sure.
This here is a fusible non-woven, and I stabilize the wrong side of my favorite
patterns like that.
So I tear them.
So sure. Actually, they're all there we go.
And this is my favorite. This is a very lightweight fusible, and I use that in
It's a woven.
It's a woven. It's a fusible, and I use it in all my shirts. And you might look at that and thought, geez, that's awfully light. But what I do is I fuse both sides of my collar,
your upper collar and your under collar.
That's right, and my collar bands as well, and my cuffs.
Lovely.
And I do that to all my shirts.
Yes. Just a little bit of crispness, but not too much.
That's right. And they press well. They come out of the... This shirt I wash and dry myself.
This guy is a master. I mean,
what this is just
shirt.
buy strips of fabric.
Oh, these are put on top?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought these were pinned. Oh,
no,
I see.
And then you stitch them down and they fray a bit, but you know what?
That's the look.
That's
the look.
Casual all our frayed look going, don't we?
Okay.
So
that's wonderful.
One of my favorite. This here is a non-fusible woven. I use this in fabrics that
I remember using this is one of the standards that have been around for 100 years.
That's right. So you use it in fabrics like this pleated fabric where you couldn't fuse interfacing
wouldn't that
to
be
this.
scary?
That would be a real mess.
And again, if you don't use interfacing on that, it'd be too wimpy.
That's right.
So you've got to put it into the seam.
A little bit.
Sure.
Just a little bit.
So just one layer in that collar.
That's right. And here's a gabardine, a polyester gabardine, cheap old fabric, but you still need a good non-fusible sew-in woven interfacing.
Yeah.
And I put it in the...
And again, most of these interfacings come white or black.
That's
right. The good news. Two choices.
A few come in gray, but, you know, it's all inside. Nobody's going to see it.
Yeah.
So that's for any twills, gabardines, any,
you likely have it in the pocket flap.
That's right, pocket flaps,
collar,
cuffs,
down the front.
Yeah. And it works great for these.
Yeah. It makes something professional. I think that's the whole object of this game of sewing. I say it so many times. You want to make it look like you didn't make it.
That's right.
And you want to make it look like you spent a lot of money.
And add your own personal touches to it, too.
Sure. So. Okay, that's great. So that's this one.
And then this is one that you use a lot, too.
Yes, I love this one.
It's a fusible knit. And what I've done with this one is I found this fabric, and I absolutely loved it. But as soon as I cut into it, Linda, you see it started to fray.
Yes.
What I did is I cut out the entire jacket, and then I cut it out again in the fusible knit, and I fused my entire jacket with interfacing.
Sure.
So now you're underlining your entire garment with interfacing.
Yes.
And what it does, it just, look at that. It just gives enough body. And I did this jean jacket style.
Sure.
Lined it as well, but the entire garment is all fused.
Underlined with that. I think it's a great underlining. I use it for anytime I've got a knit that's a little wimpy, I want to give it a little bit more, or around the neckline of a knit, or anytime like slinky. This works fine on slinky too.
Real good. Yeah. And here's another one that. This one I don't use too often.
This is this bottom one here?
No, this is another one.
Okay,
this one is referred to as a low temperature interfacing.
Okay.
And it'll fuse on a low temperature setting, and it's designed for fabrics like microfibers that don't like heat.
Like this
recycled car tire fabric, polyurethanes. Because as soon as you put a lot of heat to this,
slurp,
it's going to melt. It's going to melt. So you use a low temperature interfacing that'll fuse on a low temperature setting.
Sure.
One thing you must know about this, once you start working with the garment, or once you've laundered the garment, it will release it. The interfacing
releases, and you have to repress it. Yeah.
But that's okay, because now you have a sew-in.
Sure.
So you start off with a fusible, and you land up with a sew-in.
Yeah, but when you iron that again, if you did, you might not, though.
Like this shirt doesn't get ironed, but it works excellent for any fabrics that don't like a lot of heat.
All right, did we do this one? We didn't do this one.
This is a fusible weft, which I use in all my tailor jackets, and it's not a woven, it's not a knit, it's sort of, I think, in between.
Yeah, okay.
And I will fuse the entire front of my jacket.
Okay, and again, it's like an underlining.
Yeah, that's right. So my entire front of my jacket will get fused. My under collar, my upper collar.
What I like about you, Ron, is you sew everything.
Oh, I love sewing.
And of course, what you've got on, you just the shirts, the ties, the whole business.
The whole works.
It's been great, and I think you've helped us a lot with this whole interfacing thing, because it is kind of the I word, I guess.
Well, people get overwhelmed with all the different types of things.
So thank you so much, and definitely we'll have you back.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, thanks, and don't you go away. Well, now that you've got the whole scoop on interfacings, that was really interesting. And it is something that people don't talk about much, but it's something we should all be aware of. My next guest, though, is a really interesting topic, because I like to find interesting people who sew, and people that you might not expect to sew. And that's my next guest, Barbara Adamson. And you say you've sewn all your life. You've loved sewing.
Yes, I have. I learned in home ec back in the 60s.
Yes, and then you didn't take that as your career path. Tell us what you did then as your career path.
Well, I was originally going to go into home ec to be a sewing teacher, but I ended up in law and graduated from law school and practiced law for 9 years.
I think that's fascinating, and it does relate to me completely, because when I graduated from high school, I thought, I want to be a lawyer. But there weren't women lawyers, or not very many at that time. I thought, I think and I'm so glad, that I did what my heart said. And I think this is what you've referred to, is that you didn't not enjoy your law, but on the other hand, you you sewed during this whole process?
Yes, I did. I used to go home from law school exams and sew all night, or hit the stores, the fabric sales, and then I go back and write an exam the next day. So it was a great stress relief for me.
And sewing really is, I mean, right now, so what made you sort of make the big plunge? I mean, did you get all the other lawyers and the judges and everybody sewing, or did you fess up to this sewing fetish that you had, or did you kind of keep it in the closet?
Well, law is one of the most stressful careers you can have, and sewing is a stress relief. And I practiced family law, and so it is particularly stressful.
Yes.
And one of the downsides of being a family law lawyer is it's very difficult to make your client happy, because what they really want is not to be divorced, not to have lost their children or
not
their maintenance
to have any
argument.
of this mess that they're
That's
ending
right.
up in.
And the best lawyer can't give that to them.
In fact, what you should have given them was a sewing class.
That's right.
so you must have thought that at some
That's
time.
right.
You must have said, hey, get sewing and forget all this other stuff.
And in my business now, most people are happy.
Yes.
And so I have exchanged my life for a happy lifestyle, not stress less, but less stress.
Less stress, yes.
And most people that come into my store leave happy. And that wasn't the case when I practiced law.
Yes.
They were satisfied but not happy.
Yes, because there is no solution.
That's right.
Yeah. But I often think that we should advertise sewing classes as therapeutic. Get, stress, you lose yourself. Once you get to a sewing machine and once you get creating, the whole object of the creating and the sewing to me is just losing yourself in that garment or in that pillow or whatever it is that you do.
That's correct. And nowadays there are more options in the workplace. I have customers who take time off from work to take a sewing class because they find it relaxing.
Yes. So really, there's probably more people. You said other of your fellow lawyers sewed, and there's people out there. In fact, that's what I would like people to write in and email me and say, hey, I've got a friend, and we should find out, because I believe that there's a lot of people out there sewing that we don't even realize.
There are lots of closet sewers hiding out there.
Yes, and men as well.
That's right.
Yes. You were telling me earlier that your children, now you've got your children, they sew as well?
They both sew. I have a 13-year-old son who has taken sewing lessons, and my daughter sews as well.
Tell me about your business now. I would have to say that this business in the sewing world is not as lucrative as the law world. Would that be?
That's correct.
So
we don't sew because we get rich. We sew because we love to.
Yes, and so you had enough of that other world, and you now are doing this strictly because you enjoy it. And yes. I mean, obviously, we don't want you to go broke, but you know that there's quite a difference, and you were aware of that when you changed careers.
That's correct. I used to practice law in downtown Edmonton, which is a fairly large city, and I now have a business in my small town. So I know everyone, and they're all friends, it's very difficult when you're practicing law to be friends with your clients.
Yes,
Whereas now...
Yeah. How about the free advice?
Well...
You don't tell people that you were a lawyer, do you? You don't do that.
If I do, yes, we have lots of legal questions. We try to avoid that, as well as lawyer jokes.
Yeah, oh yes, and you don't get any sewer jokes. There's really not a lot of sewer jokes, but lawyer jokes are there. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You might be interested, because that's what your business is now, is teaching classes and selling sewing machines and that whole business, isn't it?
It is.
So you might be interested in this question that came in on the email. It says, my machine won't sew through fleece. It skips stitches. What should I do? Do you have that question quite often?
Yes. What they should do probably is take a deep breath, rethread their machine, make sure they're using the correct needle for the fabric.
Yes.
Probably a microtex needle.
Yes.
And reduce the foot pressure for fleece, because it really is to be treated like a net.
Sure.
And if that doesn't work, take it to your local dealer and have them look at it.
Sure. I think my answer to that is as well, all machines are not born equal, and it might be time for you to come in and get a cleaning on your machine, or get it oiled, or get it sort of up to snuff. When a person comes to take a class, I often think they should bring it in and just make sure that it's clicking. I mean, there's enough other variables in the sewing that you don't want your sewing machine kind of thinking out on you. You want it working.
That's correct. Sewing is only enjoyable if you have a reliable sewing machine. And if you're having problems with your machine, it might be a good time to ask for a new one.
Oh, well, that's true. There are all kinds. We're out of time, Barbara. Thank you so much. This has been great. And if you want to get hold of us, look at the address. It's coming up on the screen right after this. And join us next time, and we'll have fun all over again.
To receive the companion book for this series, send $19.98 to the address on your screen or call 1-888-MacPhee.